talking about musicians and cool things and stuff. It's the Harley and Josh
Welcome to the Harley and Josh Show. It's the lonely old Josh Show today. As there is no Harley, he's hard at work with Openreach. So you're going to be stuck with me talking all things musical, music industry, all the things that I've been up to the past couple of weeks. And we're also going to be talking about the news of Coldplay trying to get a new greener tour initiative going on. So that'll be really interesting to think about and discuss. And I've got a bunch of sort of tips on how to not be precious with your music and let it just get out there. But, you know, before I get to that point, shall I get on to a little bit of...
What'd you do?
It's the thing that we do every week where we talk about the stuff that we get up to as musicians, as teachers, and, yeah, kind of sort of tell you what we do so that you know exactly what actually the music industry is really like on the baser levels. So... this week I've been doing a lot of teaching of Christmas songs again because, you know, it's just what happens at this time of year. The kids always want to learn a new Christmas song. So say new Christmas song, it's always the classic one. So we did Last Christmas by Wham, because that's a really simple 4-chord song. It's a D major, B minor, E minor, A major. That's right? Oh, crikey, I've forgotten it now. I'll remember it at some point. But yeah, so that's a really good one to learn, especially if you're just like starting out on guitar, because, you know, it doesn't involve too many chord changes and it's a nice sort of simple pattern that you can repeat over and over again. The thing I did find with it, and I was with Raina doing this, that song is just slightly out of tune. It's like 10 cents out. So when you're playing it along with that song, you're playing the guitar, you'd think that you're out of tune, but it's actually the song is out of tune with, you know, sort of conventional digital tuning. So be interesting. You guys sort of see if you can do that. See if you can play along with the track and notice just how out of tune it is. It's ridiculous. So yeah, so that was I think that's because of tape stretching. So a lot of, you know, stuff up until sort of like the 90s was recorded straight to tape, and after a while that tape starts to age and stretch, or even, you know, when it was sort of being recorded, the heat or the cold can affect the tape and sort of the magnetisms of it, so it can just like make it slower, make it faster, make it out of tune, all of these different things. Same thing with Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Try and play with that, it's just completely out of tune. So yeah. After that, we had... we did Don't Let the Bells End by The Darkness. It just sounds like, you know, something rude by the end of it. But yeah, that was actually much tougher than you'd expect, that track. I mean, it's got only sort of 3 or 4 sections, but it's got a key change in it, and it doesn't really stay in one place. It hops around. So it's like bow, 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 bow. So trying to get people to get the changes on each of those. It's, you know, it's a change per beat, and counting it in 6, 8 rather than 4/4, but you can count it in both. So yeah, it gets people thinking about, you know, how they're counting and where they're coming in. So yeah, that was for the All Star Rock Project, rock school thing that we were doing, which we do every Monday night. So that's really, really fun to sort of get them doing that. But we're not actually learning the new songs tonight because they have a concert coming up in a couple of weeks. So yeah, trying to make sure that they're all ready for it and not, you know, not getting completely nervous and worrying too much. So yeah, that'll be a really fun thing to get them involved with, and just finish it off with a Christmas tune, just so they can get themselves excited because it's school holidays coming up soon, which I cannot wait for. Oh my gosh! So yeah, during the week I was also teaching other tracks to my kids in Moreland, because they don't have a Christmas performance coming up, so we're just sort of going through songs that have good chord changes. So I was going through Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day, one of the first songs that I ever learned on acoustic guitar, and I think that's the same for so many people, as it's got sort of great chord changes in it that are nice and simple. You're just going from a G major to a C add 9, which the change is just, you know, it's minuscule, so it's quite easy to get that feel for how little your fingers have to actually move. But then from there, it goes to D and E minor, but I was actually teaching that on ukulele, because ukulele, those chords are actually much less similar. So trying to show the kids how to sort of hop between these chords, and again, they're quite they hop around quite a lot, but also using a little bit of finger picking because it's like so you get that sort of trying to separate your fingers so they don't just stick there and get used to doing the same thing over and over and over again. So yeah, that's been really fun. Also was doing Billie Eilish Bellyache because I got the finger on the pulse, obviously. More the fact of just all the kids ask for Billie Eilish tracks. They always want to learn a Billie Eilish track, and the great thing about that is because they're usually about 3 or 4 chords. So that's nice and useful, because then they'll sort of throw a song at me that I've never heard of, and then I'll be like, right, let's figure out the chords. Oh, great, it's only 4. So by the end of the lesson, they've actually got a new song how to do it. So yeah. What's next? What I did was, Hey Ya by Outkast, because that's just another really nice and simple one to do, and didn't actually take too much to show the kids how to do it. And it shows them how to play chords outside of a key, because it borrows chords from the E minor scale and the E major scale, so you don't actually just get stuck with just doing 1s, 5s, 6s, and 4s if you know about the number system. So yeah, that's quite fun. One that we were doing on Saturday was it Ava Lux? I think it was Sweet But Psycho. Really annoyingly catchy song, that one. But we were actually doing a version with Bravo Rock School. We were doing a version by First to 11. And First to 11 as a band keep popping up all the time because we get asked to do sort of current songs and pop songs and songs that are in the charts so the kids know them rather than sort of going for obscure Led Zeppelin tracks. These First to 11 do the covers of these, so we find ways to rock them up by sort of watching and learning from this band. So they're really, really good. It's them and I think it's Halo Scene is another one that are really good for just sort of coming out with covers of songs that are really really popular, but they'll change them completely. Do you know of any other bands that do that? I'd love to know if you do. There are so many out there. I remember albums of it, just called Punk Goes Pop. We used to have like A Day to Remember or August Burns Red. Used to do versions of like Britney Spears or The Fray. So there's all of that is out there. So it's quite fun to hear how you just can take the chords from one song, change the instrumentation and how it's sung, and you can completely change the genre of it. It's great. But yeah, so that was really fun. I made a bit of a boo-boo on Wednesday. One of my students had actually shifted their lesson on the Wednesday to a different date, but I had forgotten to put that in my calendar, so I just turned up at their house. I'm just like, hey, how's it going? They're like, you're not supposed to hear it be until next week. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. It was my fault completely. But I was like, well, what are you doing now? They were like, well, we're going to have a driving lesson in about half an hour. I was like, okay, well, if you just while you're eating, let's just sit down and have a chat and let's just talk about your sort of musical interests and where you want to go with it, so we can just keep tailoring your your lessons to your tastes and to your goals and objectives, which I think is a really important thing to do. I mean, I didn't get paid for that, obviously, because I messed it up, but it was just good to be able to sit down with them when we don't have guitars in our hands and say, what do you actually want out of this? We do that before we start lessons, but it's good to sort of have that, like intermission point in the middle of sort of have lessons, because we've been seeing each other for about 5 months, something like that. So it's good to sort of have like a halfway point, and also just to show them that like I'm not just there for the money, I'm also there for their development and to sort of for the future of good music, really, because it's the next generation coming that are going to be writing the hits of tomorrow, right? So yeah, that was really fun actually, just going through, because he's a big fan of like John Mayer and Stevie Ray Vaughan, so I was showing him a lot more like sort of Band of Gypsies, Jimi Hendrix style things, and just going through a lot of hip hop as well, because he gets into his sort of modern hip hop. So I was showing him about Jay Dilla and like old school boom bap hip hop, and I'll say old school, just boom bap hip hop, and yeah, he's checking out artists like A Tribe Called Quest and Wu-Tang Clan, things like that. It's sort of broadening people's music interests, I think, is also part of your job as a music teacher. So anyway, that was it was quite embarrassing to do that. Right, until I move on to the next section, which is I've still got a couple more things to talk about, but I want to play some music for you so that you're not just completely stuck with me talking the whole time. There's a new song. I hadn't heard this. This has actually come out in October. This is by the wonderful Reno and Rome. This track sounds like it really should be in like in an 80s montage, but it's been modernized so much by Joby's voice and Nick's playing and Westy's bass playing, and it's just, the drums are wonderful in it. I think they're probably using a pad on it rather than acoustic drums. You'll hear it. You see what I'm talking about. I think you're going to be having a punch dance wherever you are right now. Check it out. This is Sane by Reno and Rome. That was the wonderful Reno and Rome with their new single Sane. You've got to check it out.
What did I do?
I'm going to carry on telling you what I did with my musical week, ain't I? Yeah. I've sort of did my teaching parts. Another fun lesson that I've been teaching recently has been about songwriting. Now, songwriting can feel a bit daunting to people when they're beginning. They feel like they have to be playing for years before they can write a song, but it's just not really very true, because there's not a huge amount to writing a song. I mean, everybody complains, music these days is so boring, it's so simple. But, people have been writing 4-chord songs ever since, time began. So what we kind of want to think about is how we select those chords and how we make them interesting. So I'm going to go through some sort of points that I go through with my kids. So what I'll do is, with my kids, I'll give them some chords that we know. So the chords that we've already done. I won't try and teach them a new chord and then expect them to slot it into a song. So we'll be like, okay, so we'll pick sort of like 6 or 7 chords that they know, or less. If they know less chords, and I'll be like, all right then. So we've got 4 bars here. So 4 bars of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and so forth. So what we'll do is then I'll say randomly pick one of those chords, and they'll just pick a chord. So they'll say like G. I'm like, okay, so do you want it to be long or short? And by long or short, I mean, do you want it to last the entire bar? 1, 2, 3, 4, or just to last for half the bar? 1, 2, and then change to another chord. So if they say long, we'll be like, okay, cool. We'll make that for the whole bar. If they say short, I'm like, okay, pick another chord. And they'll pick another chord. It's good when they'll oftentimes they'll realize the game, and they'll be like, oh, I want to make it short so I can put loads of chords. But then it's teaching them, okay, so that's good that you want to sort of push yourself, but can you actually change quick enough to be able to do that? So we do that. So we start off with that, and then I'll play through the chords that they've written. And I'll be like, okay, so this is how you can play it. And I'll either teach them the proper way of doing it, or I will try and see if they could do it with half chords or something like this, just to make it a little bit more accessible to them, so that when they get home they can say, "Look, Mum, Dad, or whoever, I've written a song," and they'll be able to show it to them. So we'll start off with that. I'll obviously ask them what kind of tempo they want. Do they want fast? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do they want slow? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or do you want to go sort of medium tempo? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. So usually they'll go for medium or slow, because they can be quite self-aware and aware of their limitations. So we'll go for that. Then, so we'll do that for 2 bars. They'll be like, okay, pick another chord, long or short, And then for the second thing, I'll say, okay, we're going to change up length of chords. I'm going to say, right, we're going to say extra small, medium, or large. So extra small would mean it lasts for 1 beat, so 1 chord and then change. Or small, lasting for 2 beats, 1, 2, and then we got to change. Or medium, 1, 2, 3, change. Or large, which is the whole bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gets them thinking about how to subdivide a bar and what we can do with those chords, not just sort of going 1, 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3. It makes them sort of da 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 ba 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 ba. It's slightly more jumpy. Makes it. You can fit it around a different subject. Different subjects could require different types of chord changes. That sort of stuff. So we'll do that. And then after that, I'll sort of try and think about how to get them to write lyrics for it. So writing lyrics for it has been quite interesting. So we got this kind of, what I'll say is like, okay, so I get very annoyed when I listen to songs. Rich Webb will agree with me on this one, of WebTunes, a wonderful songwriter and musician, that when you listen to a song and it'll say something, wishy-washy, like, I love you, but you don't even know me. There's so many songs like that where you can't actually picture what they're talking about. If you tried to put an image in your head of what that person just said, you won't really be able to, objectify it. Whereas when it comes around to, there's a great lyric by Bessie Turner that I absolutely adore and I will always go back to, which is, "You can abseil down my spine," which there's an activity in there which you can pick to that, and there is also a noun, an object, a spine, and you can literally picture somebody abseiling down the spine and then think about what that means. So that could mean, you give me the chills. Does that mean that it's a good thing, or is it creepy? And the song that I get from it is that she likes that, just from the chords underneath and the melody. So it's open to interpretation things. The great thing with using that. So what I'll say to the kids, I'm like, okay, so think of a place, think of an activity, think of an emotion, and think of like a weather thing. And so I had a group of kids, about 4 of them, and they were like, okay, I was like, think of a place. They were like, Paris. I was like, think of an activity. What was it? Hula hooping. Think of an emotion, sad. And I was like, okay, think of the weather. They were like, raining. So it's like you're hula hooping and you're sad, but you're in Paris while it's raining. You can immediately picture that. I mean, it's quite funny, but and that creates a discussion of us like, okay, so how are we going to create a structure for this, and do we have a story involved here? So then I'll ask them for different things. So I'll be like, think of a terrain, like a forest, like the sea or a beach. What else? I was like, think of a color. So blue, red, because different colors have different connotations. They, blue meaning sad, red meaning passion, all that sort of stuff. And the more kind of, thinking words that we can think of, things that make you picture something in your head are really great, and it's a great kind of exercise. So if you do want to write a song, and you know an instrument or anything, if you just want to write some lyrics, think about it like that. Just think of some, not descriptive words per se. Just think of words that you could use to describe something that somebody could picture in their head. It's so important to be able to make that connection with someone. I did that with a couple of my songs. I did it with "Let's Take a Stroll," and I did a real specific storyline with that, and it was sort of taking a narrative through with the listener. Same thing with "Untied," was I tried to make a sort of a spoken word poem where you could really follow this kind of questionable character and through the places he's going, the activities he's doing, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, try that the next time. I've been trying it with my bass students as well, and that's been quite fun to do. But if you've got any tips on how to write songs, we would absolutely love to know them, because we all need to learn. I've been playing guitar for, 19 years now. I've been writing songs for most of that time, and I'm always open to learning new things. We've always got to be open to learning new things, right? So yeah. It was another thing I was teaching with Seven Nation Army. You've always got to teach Seven Nation Army, just because it's for a beginner guitarist, they know the riff really well. And it's quite a nice little simple kind of pattern on the A string. You just go 7th fret, 7, 7, 10th fret, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2. So if you do that and you just go through them with that, you're like, remember the numbers. And then after we've done fretboard knowledge, and I'll be like, okay, so can you name those notes that you've just played? Gets them thinking about how to navigate their fretboard, and it also gives them something to show to the parents, which is good, because then they're proud of it, and it shows they might actually practice, which is good if they actually practice, right? So yeah, that was really good. So I actually did have 2 gigs this weekend, which were really, really, really fun. I really enjoyed them. On the Friday, we had an earlier gig, Murray and myself, Murray, Mr. Double Bass Player Extraordinaire, and me on guitar and singing. It was at Essex Uni. So that's in Colchester in Wivenhoe. And it was outside, so it was absolutely freezing my nips off, and it's really quite difficult to play and sing in that weather, but the crowd were great. It's all young students, foreign students, people from the local area, people from far afield, people from loads of different religions and genders and creeds and all that sort of stuff. That's just what universities are great for, right? But the great thing was just like watching these different types of people all stood in the same place and all just listening along to rock and roll and singing along. They all knew the songs. Somebody from Sudan was standing next to somebody from Turkey and somebody from the UK, all singing along to Blue Suede Shoes. How amazing is that? So got them all singing along, for lots of different things. And it was just two of us, did 2 sets. It was already set up by the time we got there. I don't think they actually have a music course at Essex University. So it was quite interesting to sort of meet the kind of people that were doing it with us. They were mostly doing like theatre tech and things like that. So they had the mic set up and things, and it was quite a good little rig. But they have so many different types of acts going on during the day. It was like, choirs, acoustic acts. There was somebody doing aerial hoop. There was old Rusty Russell doing chainsaw art. So sort of like carving stuff that was absolutely amazing. He got a log and carved it with a chainsaw to look like a chain. So 3 links out of 1 piece of wood, didn't cut anything and then stick them all back together, just 3 links of a chain that he'd made out of 1 log. I have no idea how he did it. I wasn't there for what he did. I just saw somebody who'd bought it and they were trying to stuff it in their backpack because they thought it was just absolutely amazing, which it is. So well done, Rusty. But yeah, so that was us. We had a sort of like a built up stage that was made up of sort of different segments of platforms, so sort of rises, and so if I was tapping my foot on one, it would be bouncing, and it knocked over a mic, and I was just like, so sorry. It was like in the first song or something, and I just sort of turned to the sound guys. I was like, yeah, cool. Can you pick that up? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it in a bit. I'm like, no. Now, because I do not want us standing on that and then have to pay for your mic afterwards. And you just see them just like, all right then. I really dislike it when technicians are like, don't make me do a thing. Most technicians are super up and about and ready to do it, but sometimes you really have to be like, no, do the thing now, because otherwise other things are going to go wrong. But yeah, anyway, so that was literally the only thing that I had a problem with. The rest of it was just wonderful. There was Adam Merchant from Ghosts of Men, who is actually going to be playing on the show today, had a new business venture called Flickbook or Flick Booth, which is they make flick books, sort of where you make you have sort of multiple pictures making up a moving image. That it's just you can have a stand at like private events or conferences, weddings, all this sort of stuff, and they sort of like video you doing something crazy with like different props and things, and after that they'll print it out right then and there and give you a little flick book. And we got one with the wonderful Pet Needs, who Johnny Marriott, shout out, he was planning the whole thing for the SU at Essex University, and he dragged along his brother and guitarist George and his bass player Richard, and they just got involved with us and just had a really good time. It was really nice to see those guys when they weren't gigging, because they were sort of let loose and just being really lovely blokes. So yeah, that was really nice. So shout out to the wonderful Colchester music scene. It's great up there. They really are, just like we are here, super connected and supportive of each other, like we are in Ipswich. And yeah, just like everybody knew everybody. It was just like a big, nice sort of chummy fest. So yeah, all right. Before I carry on rambling on, I'm going to play some more music. This is the wonderful History and Lore. They're playing this weekend with Gaffer Tape Sandy in Bury St Edmunds. Stick around for the gig list at the end. This is one of their most recent singles, Epilogue, Prologue. Check it out. That was the wonderful History and Lore with their one of the most recent singles, Epilogue and Prologue. Just absolutely great, uplifting tune for a Monday, right? That was it reminds me of Bring Me the Horizons. I've forgotten what the song's actually called. Who will fix me now? I think it's Drown. That's it. Don't let me drown. So yeah, I think you've got to check those guys out live, because that'll be a big sing-along fest, because they've got a good fan base, that lot. So I'm going to finish off talking about my weekend with talking about the gig that I had on Sunday with the wonderful JS and the Buccaneers, my favourite bands that I play in, to be honest. It's absolutely amazing fun to play with those guys. We were at Isaac's in that bit, so if you enter from the front, from the marina, there's a little section like sort of that they've built quite recently, but in the last couple of years, and it's in this sort of glass section. I was worrying because I thought we were going to be playing outside, and it was so cold. I was like, no, thank you. I do not particularly want to do that. But luckily, I we were inside, and we could do the acoustic thing. We had a really, really good crowd, so it was nice and packed, nice and buzzing. I had some people to shout over, which is good because it makes me give a bit more to the performance. Because if people are engrossed in conversation, I need to do something more interesting than that conversation, so that they've got something good to watch, right? So yeah, that's really been quite fun. Thanks, Sarah. It is Woodbridge Road. Yeah, this would be quite fun to play these new songs that we've written. I wrote a new song specifically for that gig, which is called A Hadley Story, which is all about John Harvey, the leader of the Hadley gang, and how he got arrested, and made a little bit of a fictitious tale about a woman that he fell in love with, who was a bit of a cocotte, a prostitute perhaps. So yeah, it was a really good gig. After singing loud on the Friday outside in the cold, my voice was a little bit raspy, and then shouting on the Sunday, I'm a little bit raspy today, but not too much. So I'm still able to talk to you lovely blokes and ladies, and everyone in between. So yeah, it was just, I want to say a big thanks to everybody that came along to that gig. It was a big mix of like loads of people that I love, including my family, Frankie, and Tom's family, as well as guys from the local music scene like Josh Carr and John Adams. Just like really good to see these people there. And Webby from ICR, who's on his show right now. Don't move that dial, but he has a good show. He was recording it, so hopefully we'll hear him playing that on his show sometime. But we don't have really any recordings, that we've released or anything from the Buccaneers yet. So the more stuff that we've got that we can give to you guys is the better, I think. So yeah, that was the end of my weekend. Just finished it off with watching bad movies with my girlfriend and just laughing and then falling asleep and waking up and doing the research for the show today, because we have new things to talk about this week with our serious news. Here we go. Coldplay announced last week that they would not be taking on tour their new album. Music news. All right. So this is the news that Coldplay will be and Massive Attack have both been coming out and talking about how they are worried about the effect that touring has on the environment, which is a really quite interesting point if you think about it. We've actually kind of, been touring and flying between countries. I mean, I've also, been driving cross country and using ferries and planes and stuff like that to get to gigs. And the musicians are often the people very vocal about climate change is a thing and it's going to affect us all and we all have to do our bit. But you do run the risk of being a bit of a hypocrite with those situations when you are actually touring. So Coldplay are thinking about this, which is, it's always a good idea, isn't it? So Coldplay announced last week that they would not be taking their new album on tour, instead performing the album just once on British soil at the Natural History Museum. Frontman Chris Martin expressed his concerns about the future of touring, highlighting the difficulties of reconciling flying with environmentalism, and expressed the wish to see a Coldplay show run largely on solar power with no single-use plastic. I mean, This is a band that their last tour generated £405 million for the music industry. So if they're going to be doing it, it's quite a big deal. Massive Attack also declared this week that business as usual is over, as they began working with the University of Manchester's Tyndall Centre to map the carbon footprint of tours and work on a blueprint to reform the industry, a message similarly shared by Billy Bragg on his recent tour. I mean, obviously Billy Bragg's involved in this, right? Lewis Jamieson, a founding member of UK climate action group Music Declares Emergency, backed Coldplay's action. He says, if they can create a template for touring that is more sustainable, they are in a position where they can drive that research more than smaller acts, something that will benefit all artists, which is very true. You need big acts, like Coldplay to come out and do this, just to show everybody that it can be done. People like, on the smaller levels, we're trying our hardest, but it pales in comparison to the amount of flights and ferries and things like that the bigger bands do. I mean, gigging is more important than ever to artists in the age of streaming and rapidly declining CD sales. That's what's happening at the moment, especially for those who are not industry juggernauts. It was reported last week that the value of the British live music industry reached a record high of £1.1 billion in 2018. See, the thing is, like, you know, if you really... This is a difficult thing because the most environmentally friendly thing to do would be just to stop people touring and just release stuff online, which would be slightly greener, even though servers need heating and a lot of energy and power. But really, the end of live music, as Jamieson said, is neither feasible nor desirable. We need live music, right? Billie Eilish, twice she's been mentioned in the show, expressed her support for climate activism in a video entitled "Our House is on Fire," which is true, right? And earlier this week, she wore a "No Music on a Dead Planet" t-shirt. Very evocative, I like that. It was at the American Music Awards, the same slogan touted by Foles at this year's Mercury Prize ceremony, which is true. If the planet's on fire, then nobody's really going to be wanting to go any gigs, are they? Limiting the use of plastic straws and providing water for reusable bottles and educational hubs around the venue seems to be a lot of things that venues are starting to do. But here's some really interesting figures for you, okay? So the Green Touring Network, a company really dedicated to look into this issue, report that 34% of a tour's carbon footprint comes from the venue itself, followed closely by audience travel. Everybody getting to the gig, right? If you're doing a massive show at Wembley Stadium, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people driving, and there's going to be a lot of people, parking up and all this kind of stuff that does take up a lot of, we're going to need to offset that carbon. So, and the third biggest factor actually is merchandise, which is an interesting thing because, I mean, think about the amount of merchandise that gets printed for tours, T-shirts, CDs, stickers, beach towels, you name it. There's so much that goes into it. There's a lot of resources that have to get used up. Now, the 1975 have actually been doing something with this, where they started to upcycle old unsold merch from previous tours. Now, this is slightly different for smaller bands because, I mean, smaller bands, it's not often that we are, doing a different T-shirt for a different gig or a different tour. That more applies to the the bigger bands. But, if you are in a smaller band and you've got T-shirts that you don't sell, think about how much it might affect the environment if you printed a brand new batch of CDs and T-shirts where you could just take the old ones and sell them on tour. Try and get out of them first before you start something new. It would really help things. So, Katie Tunstall took the more direct approach of planting thousands of trees, a move similarly adopted by Coldplay in 2002. But carbon offsetting has been criticised by Del Naja, she's also an activist here, who said it creates an illusion that high carbon activities enjoyed by wealthier individuals can continue by transferring the burden of action and sacrifice to others. I mean, it's good to be able to just plant, not print, thousands of new trees. I mean, that'd be wonderful if we could all do that, right? Make the earth a bit greener and a bit more easier to breathe. But not everybody can afford that. And also it means that you just carry on with business as usual. You're not actually changing what you do. You're just trying to offset what you do by sort of, palming it off to something else. But, tours will need to not generate CO2 in the first place, and there will need to be pressure from artists and promoters on venues to switch to sustainable energy sources or face losing their business. The way that people are getting much more politically minded with this nowadays, just, it's always in the news, climate change. So more and more people are noticing that it's a real scary issue, and if they notice that a business is not pulling their weight, they'll just stop giving them their business, right? A new thing is Melody VR are giving people the opportunity to watch gigs at home without going to the concert. Kanye West did this with his most recent gig. He actually streamed it to cinemas. But Billy Bragg basically resists the ideas, obviously, like this, complaining that so many experience culture through a screen and in isolation. And it's very true that live music is one of the only places that you can go somewhere, meet somebody completely new, whereas you'd usually be sat at home on a Saturday night on your phone, if not, right? Jamieson from the Green Touring Initiative, it says, to find ways of doing things better is the first thing, right? Rather than assuming that the only way is to stop doing them. I think that's true across the board, not just in the music industry. Just find different ways to do things rather than stop doing something. Find a way that's actually beneficial to the environment rather than just sitting there going, right, we'll just stop doing that now and find something else, because that something else might actually have the same problem. So anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think the smaller bands and big bands could do to stop having such an impact on the environment? I remember the Live Earth gig years ago, when have these big artists playing at Wembley for this multinational broadcast, and they were all flown in, and you're thinking, okay, so great. You've kind of done the exact opposite of what you said there. So anyway, let's get on to the next thing I was thinking about this week.
Thing I found report about this morning.
Jingle. Oh, Harley, he's not here. So I was talking to Josh Carr yesterday after he came along to my gig, and we went to the Three Rose Monkeys for a bit of dinner afterwards, about not being precious with music. And I think Hot Tramp are quite good with this. They write a lot of good songs, and then they just get them out there. And there are so many people that listen to this show that will say to me, I really want to write my own music, but it's just not finished yet. And my question to them is always going to be, well, when will it be finished? Do you know? So I've kind of put some points together just to sort of talk people through this idea of just not being precious with your music and just getting it out there. So when you treat a work in progress too preciously, you're basically trading your talents for fears. And you need to sort of be able to say, okay, I've got these fears about this work, but I'm just going to give it away. All good makers leave a legacy of abandoned drafts, unfinished works, mediocre projects, failed ideas, and work that has enabled them to learn what they needed to finish the products they are famous for. You don't think Dark Side of the Moon came without at least 5 albums beforehand? No, they needed to release the songs that they weren't as good as before they released their masterpieces. And they didn't know that was a masterpiece at the time, right? So Pink Floyd didn't suddenly sit there and think, right, this is going to be the album that we're known for. They're just like, right, this is the next step in our creative process. You become conservative and suppressing the courage required to make the tough choices that resolve the work's problems and let you finish. If you just keep it in your head, right? Productive masters know how to be both intimate with and distant from their own work. Being able to sit there and go, oh, this is really important to me, but it's just another step on the stairs, just another rung on the ladder before I get to my peak of how good I am, right? Interesting point here, right? Some Buddhist monks make mandalas. Everybody knows those tattoos now, right? Intricate paintings made from colored grains of sand. But when completed, the mandalas are destroyed. They just blown away. These monks make and destroy these wondrous works to remind themselves not to be too precious, and not only about their works of art, but about life itself. This isn't an excuse not to work hard or to not strive for greatness. Mandalas take skill and patience to create. Instead, it's a recognition that while your work might mean everything to you in the moment, in the grand scheme of your career, your life, and the universe itself, it's just another thing that will someday fade away. Sorry to sound a bit dark, but this is our imprint that we're leaving behind, and if we don't get it out there, we don't have an imprint at all, right? You'll never call anything finished, denying yourself the essential experience of looking back from a distance and learning from what you've already made. If you spin your wheels faster and faster on smaller and smaller details, you'll never move anywhere, right? Put the beginning at the end, or at the top, or at the bottom of the song. Blow your work up into weird jagged pieces and put them back together. Think about a verse or a chorus that you've written, think, I don't know, I don't think this really works together. Pull them apart, put them in different songs, see if they work there. Obsessing about every little choice is a surefire way to prevent great work from happening at all. Don't be too precious. If you truly love your craft, there are an infinity of projects in your future. There will be other chapters. There will be other canvases that you can work on, right? Other songs that you can write. Perfection is a prison, and it's a self-made one. If you're just striving for perfection, you're not going to get it. It's just got to be done and move on, right? It's just hard. Otherwise, whatever you're making, it doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion. I have not written a perfect song, and I've been writing for sort of 18 years. I will continue to write, and I don't think I ever will write a perfect song. I don't think one exists. I've listened to so many songs that I think, oh, that's perfect, but the artist that wrote it is probably like, this is awful. So whatever song you're writing, whatever project you're working on, doesn't have to be music. Just get on with it, get it out there, show it to people, and if it's done, it's done, and it's finished. Then you can move on to your next thing. So, before I get onto the gig list, I want to show you guys some new music. This is the fantastic Brooke Telling. This is actually, I say new music, this is an older recording of hers, but she is releasing some new music this weekend, and you stick around for the gig list to find out where. This is Leap of Faith. Check it out. That was the wonderful Brooke Telling with Leap of Faith. You can check her out this weekend with her brand new EP release. That is going to be at the Cases Altered the Saturday, the 7th of December, 2019. That's going to be from 8 p.m. until late. So on that note, let's get along with the wonderful gig list. It's time to tell you what's going on in your locality this weekend, because there's a lot, mate. So Friday, 6th of December, at the Premier Pool Club in Ipswich, where you'll probably be finding me this weekend, is going to be, oh crikey, it's Kanda Rivas from Japan, plus support. There's some amazing bands playing with them this weekend, including Arms to Oblivion. That's going to be this Friday, 6th of December, at the Premier Pool Club. It's free entry, so if you like your hardcore metal, hard rock, grindcore, deathcore, something like this, the sludgier side of metal, you get yourself down to the Premier Pool Club this Friday, the 6th of December. Also this Friday, in Colchester this time, Drunken Dolly, coming down from the Netherlands, are playing along with the wonderful Pet Needs for Johnny Marriott's birthday. Happy birthday, mate. Hoof, which is Hot Octopus on Face. It's a great band name, Hoof. And who we're going to finish the show off, Ghosts of Men, with their new single, Crooked Back. That is this Friday at Coda in Colchester. Also, in Colchester this Friday, the 6th of December, you got Gaz Brookfield, and Lawrence Crowe, his imaginary band. I've played with Lawrence Crowe before. Great guy. Really, he's been around all over the world, played lots of different places, written so many different songs, and it's him by himself. There's no band with him. So, yeah, it's quite amazing just to sort of see him work, because he gets up on the tables, gets people involved. So check him out. That's this Friday, 6th of December, at the Throughwise Monkeys in Colchester. Also, this weekend, we've got Claire Free. I tried to get her for the show today, but she's working, so that's just what happens when I ask people last minute. One day, we will have Claire Free in the studio. Wonderful guitarist. She is going to be playing this weekend at the Smokehouse, right here in Ipswich, or right next door to me right now. So that's Saturday, 7th of December. Also, December 7th, this is in Bury St Edmunds. Rec, who I'm not sure if they're from Norwich or Brighton. They gig in both of those places. But we've got Cutting Ties. We've also got Beach Riot. Gaffer Tape Sandy, who we love on this show. We've played them a bunch of times. And also who we played earlier, History and Lore. So if you like the sound of that stuff, that's Saturday at 6 o'clock, the Hunter Club Bar and Venue in Bury St Edmunds. Also, December 7th, we've got Metal for Mental Health, including friends of the show, Raise and Beneath the Embers. They're going to be playing Saturday, 7:30 at Norwich B2 venue, right? So if you've been to the B2 before, you'll know everybody wants to gig there who's in a metal band. And also, this Saturday, what I mentioned before, the wonderful Brooke Telling is going to be releasing her EP, The Flowers. It's her release party this Saturday. The pub opens at 6, but it's going to be starting about 8 at the Cases Altered in Ipswich. She's a youngster, that one. I mean, I think she's 19. You've just heard her. She was who I just played just a second ago. And yeah, I think she's got a bright future ahead of her. So you want to go and see her now before she gets too big and nobody else can go and see them live. So I'm going to do a shout out to you wonderful people, because on the Facebook page, we do games every single week, and every Monday we get this kind of feeling of, we get this, want to get a community together talking about music, having a laugh, having a joke. And this week, what I wanted to talk about was famous musicians with famous musical offspring. So I started with the wonderful Tim Buckley and his son, Jeff Buckley. All right, so we've had some quite amazing stuff coming from from all these wonderful people on our Facebook page. You can find us at Harley and Josh Show on Facebook and on Instagram as well. We've got Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli from Sarah May. Very, very good idea on that one, mate. That's that I actually hadn't thought about that one. They've got that same old singing voice from the old days. Ashman Clear, Bob Marley, Ziggy Marley, Julian Marley, Stephen Marley, Damian Marley. That's a lot of kids, right? Rob Lewis has come out with huge amounts, as per usual. What a legend. He's come out with Glenn Campbell and Ashley Campbell. He's also come... Oh, crikey. That's not come up on this status. We've also got Glenn Campbell and Debbie Campbell. Yeah, that's true. There's huge amounts on here, right? So let's see. What else have we got on here? We've got John Lennon and Julian Lennon from Dave Harmon. Thanks, mate. Lloyd Willis Turnbull with Albert Hammond Sr. and Albert Hammond Jr. Good shout on that one. I want to thank Rob Castellani for thinking of Donny Hathaway and Layla Hathaway. I didn't even know that was a thing. Both amazing musicians. I didn't know that was they were related. Also, Gemma Sell, thank you for this one. Queen's drummer Roger Meadows Taylor is the father of Rufus Tiger Taylor, who is the drummer of The Darkness. It's all interlinked, mate. It's all interlinked. Tom McCarthy, the guitar theme man himself, the White Claudia. Hank Williams Jr. and Hank Williams III. So, yeah, all of those. Oh, yeah, Tony Wright, Johnny Cash, and Rosanna Cash. There's a lot of this, I was saying this to Rob earlier, there's a lot of nepotism, it seems, in country music. A lot of people, country musicians, their sons or daughters are very good at country music as well. So, yeah, pretty amazing, that one. Anyway, have you got anything that you think I've missed, or anything that you think we should add? Please let us know in the comments below on this podcast, or if you're on iTunes or Google, please give us a rating and share this. We upload new music every single week to our Spotify playlist. That's the only Spotify playlist you'll find that champions all the amazing music that happens in East Anglia. You really got to follow that. There's some amazing music on that. And if you like the music you heard today, you'll be able to find it on there so you can add it to your own playlists. We're on Instagram. We're all over the place. Come find us. If you want to be part of the show, please do let us know. We're at harleyandjoshshow@gmail.com. I want to thank everybody that's been watching on Facebook Live today. Thanks. Hello, Dad. We'll see you next week. I'm going to be having Amy Ragg talking to me. If you've got some specific topics that you want us to talk about, please let us know. But until then, we love you very much. This is the wonderful Ghosts of Men with their new single, Crooked Back. See you later, mate.